order is going to be disad EC. The disad, we're starting at the bottom and then going to the top of it. Everyone ready? That was a nice Hail Mary Preetham tried to pull on the disad. The problem is that the Glick evidence and douche evidence do not say what he's trying to say about civil wars. First of all, the taglines just say Africa War. Second of all, the Glick's evidence doesn't even say civil war. It just says that Africa War and local wars can go global, which means that my terms will still link because they link to the idea of war. And third, the douche evidence says that it's Africa's civil war and other wars that will draw on these power and cause nuclear power. So when you call the evidence, he does not get what he says, where it's only civil war that links and not local wars, which means Bonds very clearly turns to disad. He just makes an assertion that it's about civil war, but his own evidence works against it. He also says this is the likeliest brink because we're really close to the brink, but there's no evidence in the dissent that actually establishes the brink, so don't look to that claim. And he says it's the most probable scenario because it's an all-out nuclear war, but the question is whether we actually get to that nuclear war, and he doesn't do enough job setting up that probability. So off the top of the dissent, here's what I'm winning. It's said the non-unique that Africa's already unstable. There are problems in Sudan and Congo. There's constant infighting. He says that he has a 10-year study, but it's not a study. It's just an assertion that there's been stability in Africa. That's as wishy-washy as my claim and as my empirically verified versus Bodea 12 doesn't give any actual examples, which severely mitigates the probability of the dissent, but also extend Bonds one that when countries have resource extraction, they use violence to go after and maintain access to resources because they need more resources. He says it's fine if it's violence, just civil war, but his own evidence at the bottom of the dissent disproves that because it's still an African war, there's still instability in China, and the U.S. will still try to intervene. So extend the conceded reason to prefer the evidence. The 8-point it establishes a cause of war. Ms. Bodea 12 just asserts studies, but doesn't explain their quality. And two, the Bonds 2 evidence cites the actual empirical study and controls for the variable, showing it's a much stronger evidence, so that it's much likelier war in his system with resource extraction, my system with environmental protection. So I'm turning back the dissad. That means he automatically loses the round because all his other weighing on the dissad's on the AC is contingent on him winning the dissad. But either way, the dissad is probably a mess. The AC is much clearer because he doesn't establish a clear offense. So go to the AC. He says that the framing issue is whether northern powers can extract from southern powers, but I made clear answers. Instead of response that domestic policy solved because the reason the northern powers are able to come in is because they come in and the domestic powers allow the northern powers to do the resource extraction. So if we change the domestic policy, the northern powers can't do that because Lou evidence is about failed states, but he concedes not unique that they'll always try to intervene. At least my system says that they can't harm the environment when they do intervene, so I'm always comparatively ahead. At that point, extend Gonzalez to the northern fleets of South resource consuming 70% of the world's energy, which is 20% of the world's population. Extend buoyant northern looting maximizes risk of extinction. Grasslands declining from overgrazing, forest shrink, and a rat spray. Every resource subsidies concept by 2100 humans will consume the entire biological product causing extinction. He says his time frame should come first, but that doesn't make sense. If it's not going to happen or if it's not likely to happen, then we always push off the harm. That's the reason why global warming has constantly gotten worse, because we always say, oh, it'll happen later, let's focus on the present. But the problem becomes so much worse, so I have extremely high probability because he concedes all the 4 reasons of probability weighing. Send the 8 point that just has to go through multiple links, each with less than guaranteed probability. The B point that my arguments are based in physical science. The C point that it evaluates the evidence and finds it overwhelming. And the D point it cites the direct brink, whereas his is just a nebulous brink. He says my authors don't cite the methodology, but 1, that's a new response, and 2, it provides an analytical warrant for why research action is unstable. So I'm winning the distinction offense. Good round.